Emily stood at the bustling cafe in Paris, her fingers dancing over the keyboard of her laptop. As a 30-year-old freelance writer, she thrived on the energy of the city, drawing inspiration from the vibrant streets and the stories that unfolded around her. She was in town for a literary conference, excited to connect with fellow writers and share her latest work. But amidst the excitement, a nagging feeling tugged at her heart. Back in London, her husband James was taking care of their 2 young children. They had been married for 5 years, and while Emily was pursuing her dreams, she trusted James to hold down the fort. He had always been supportive, encouraging her to chase her passions. As she sipped her coffee, her phone buzzed with a message from an old friend, Sarah. The words on the screen sent a chill down her spine. "Emily, have you heard? James sold your house while you were away. I just saw it on social media." Emily's heart raced. The house they had bought together, the one they had filled with laughter and memories, was now in someone else's hands. She felt a wave of disbelief wash over her. How could he do this? With a mix of anger and confusion, Emily quickly packed her things and made her way to the airport. She needed to confront James and find out the truth. The flight back to London felt like an eternity, her mind racing with questions and emotions. As the plane touched down, Emily's determination solidified. She would not let this betrayal go unanswered. She was ready to face whatever awaited her at home, even if it meant confronting the man she once thought she knew so well. Emily arrived home, her heart pounding as she approached the familiar street. The once vibrant colors of their house now felt muted, overshadowed by the weight of betrayal. As she stepped onto the porch, she noticed the new welcome mat, a stark, generic design that felt foreign beneath her feet. Taking a deep breath, she rang the doorbell, her stomach churning with anticipation. A moment later, the door swung open, revealing a woman in her early 30s, with perfectly styled hair and a bright smile. "Can I help you?" the woman asked, tilting her head in confusion. "I'm sorry, I think I have the wrong house," Emily replied, though deep down she knew she didn't. This was her home, 154 Maple Street, the place where she and James had built their life together. "Are you looking for James?" the woman asked, her expression shifting from confusion to recognition. "He's at work right now." The world tilted sideways for Emily. "I'm Emily," she managed to say, her voice barely above a whisper. "James's wife." The woman's eyes widened, then narrowed. "Oh, I'm Sophie, James's new wife." The words hit Emily like a physical blow, and she gripped the doorframe to steady herself. "Oh, do you mean new wife?" Emily's voice trembled with disbelief. Sophie's voice dripped with false sympathy. "James said you two were separated. We got married last month." Emily's heart sank. She pulled out her phone, her fingers shaking as she dialed James's number. He answered on the 3rd ring, his voice casual as if nothing was wrong. "Emily, you're back early. Where's the kids?" "Where's my house, James?" she demanded, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside. There was a long pause on the other end. "I can't explain." "Explain fast," she interrupted, her patience wearing thin. "I'm standing on our porch talking to your new wife. Explain that?" "Look, I tried calling you multiple times," he said, his tone defensive. "You were in Paris, and I had to make decisions." "Decisions? You sold our home while I was away caring for our children?" "Your mother didn't die," he said, as if that made it better. "No thanks to you," she spat back. "Where are my things?" They're in storage unit 247 at Safe Store on 5th Street. I'll text you the code," he replied, his voice faltering. Emily ended the call, her heart racing. Sophie still stood in the doorway, arms crossed, watching her like she was a reality show. "I'd like to see the house," Emily said, her voice firm. Sophie laughed, a sound that grated on Emily's nerves. "Excuse me?" the house I paid half the down payment for, the house that still has my name on the mortgage," Emily said, pulling out her phone. "Unless you'd prefer I call my lawyer right now." Sophie's smug expression faltered. "Fine, but make it quick." As Emily stepped inside her former home, it felt like a fever dream. The walls, once painted in colors they had chosen together, were now a bland beige. The cozy living room, filled with memories, felt cold and unwelcoming. "How long have you known James?" Emily asked, trying to keep her composure. "We met at the gym about a year ago," Sophie replied, her tone casual. "He was so lonely, always talking about how his wife was never around." Emily bit back a laugh, her heart aching. "While his wife was caring for their children, right?" As they walked through the house, Emily's mind raced. She needed to find a way to reclaim her life, her home, and her dignity. Emily felt a surge of determination as she walked through the house that had once been filled with love and laughter. The memories flooded back. Family dinners, birthday parties, and quiet evenings spent together. Now it felt like a hollow shell, tainted by betrayal. "James never mentioned that this house has a serious mold problem," Emily said, turning to Sophie with a smirk. Sophie's face paled, and Emily could see the panic rising in her eyes. "What? He didn't tell me that," Sophie stammered, her confidence wavering. "Oh, he didn't?" Emily replied, feigning innocence. "It's in the walls, you know. That's why we got such a good deal on it. The previous owners had to disclose it, of course. It's all in the paperwork." Sophie's expression shifted from confusion to alarm. "Are you serious? I need to call James." "Go ahead," Emily said, crossing her arms. "I'm sure he'll have a great explanation for you." As Sophie fumbled for her phone, Emily took a moment to gather her thoughts. She had to act fast. She couldn't let James and Sophie think they could just take her life away from her without consequences. "By the way," Emily said, her voice dripping with sarcasm, "have you been feeling tired lately, getting headaches?" Sophie's eyes widened, and she quickly dialed James's number, her voice shaky as she spoke. Emily walked out of the house, feeling a mix of satisfaction and anger. She needed to regroup and come up with a plan. Once in her car, the tears finally came. 8 months of caring for her children, of sleepless nights and endless worry, all while James had been betraying her. She felt a fire ignite within her, a determination to make him regret every decision that led to this moment. Her phone buzzed, and it was Maya, her best friend. "You're back. How's everything? How are the kids?" "They're fine," Emily replied, wiping her eyes. "But I need your help. James sold our house and married someone else while I was gone. I'm going to make him pay for this." "I'm on my way," Maya said without hesitation. "We're going to destroy him." As Emily drove to Maya's apartment, her mind raced with ideas. She needed to gather evidence, to find a way to reclaim her life. When she arrived, Maya was already waiting, surrounded by documents spread across her dining table. "First things first," Maya said, sliding a mug of coffee toward Emily. "I did some digging. James has been busy while you were away. Besides getting married, he's been up to no good." Emily wrapped her hands around the warm mug, feeling a sense of comfort. "What do you mean?" 3 months ago, he withdrew $50,000 from your joint savings," Maya said, pushing a document toward her. "He used it as a down payment on a new car, registered only in his name." Emily's heart raced. "He what? That money was for our kids?" Maya nodded, her expression serious. "And here's where it gets interesting. The house sale? He rushed it through while you were literally in Paris. The paperwork is sloppy." Emily leaned forward, her anger boiling. "What do you mean?" "James never filed the proper paperwork for selling a jointly owned property without both owners present," Maya explained. "That means the sale might not be legally binding." Emily felt a surge of hope. "So, I can challenge it?" Absolutely, Maya said, a determined look in her eyes. But we need to act fast. Just then, Emily's phone rang. It was James. She glanced at Maya, who nodded, urging her to answer. Emily, what did you say to Sophie about the mold? James's voice was tight with anger. Only the truth, Emily replied, her voice steady. You did read the inspection report before selling our house, right? There's no black mold, but you know how these things can come back if not maintained properly. There was silence on the other end. Emily could almost hear the gears turning in his mind. By the way, she continued, want to explain why you withdrew $50,000 from our joint savings? That was my money too. Emily, I just got off the phone with the bank, she interrupted. Interesting how you forged my signature on some of those withdrawal slips. You can't prove that, he shot back, but his voice lacked conviction. Can I? We'll see what the bank's fraud department has to say, she said, hanging up before he could respond. Maya clapped her hands together, a grin spreading across her face. That was brilliant. You're on fire. Emily felt a rush of adrenaline. She was ready to take back her life, and she wouldn't let James or Sophie get away with this. With a renewed sense of purpose, Emily and Maya devised a plan to confront James and Sophie. They gathered all the evidence they could find, including bank statements, property records, and the inspection report for their former home. Emily felt a mix of anxiety and determination as they prepared for the confrontation. Are you ready for this? Maya asked, her eyes sparkling with excitement. I have to be, Emily replied, her heart racing. I need to show them that I won't back down. The next day, Emily drove to her old neighborhood, her palms sweaty on the steering wheel. As she approached the house, she felt a wave of nostalgia wash over her. The garden they had planted together, the front porch where they had shared countless memories. It all felt like a distant dream. Emily parked her car and took a deep breath before stepping out. She walked up to the door and knocked firmly. A moment later, Sophie opened the door, her expression shifting from surprise to annoyance. Be red. Do you want Emily? Sophie asked, crossing her arms defensively. I need to talk to James, Emily said, her voice steady. It's important. Sophie hesitated, but eventually stepped aside, allowing Emily to enter. The living room was decorated in a style that felt foreign to her. Everything was new and shiny, lacking the warmth and character they had once shared. James, Sophie called out, her voice echoing through the house. Emily. James appeared from the kitchen, a look of surprise crossing his face. What are you doing here? He asked, his tone defensive. I came to talk about the house, Emily said, her voice firm, and about everything else. James shifted uncomfortably, glancing at Sophie. There's nothing to talk about, Emily. You're the one who left. Left? I was working to support our family while you sold our home and married someone else. Emily shot back, her anger bubbling to the surface. Sophie stepped forward, her expression smug. You were gone, Emily. James needed someone who was there for him. Emily turned to Sophie, her eyes blazing. You think you know what's best for him? You've no idea what he's done. Enough! James shouted, his voice echoing in the room. What do you want from me? I want to know how you could betray me like this, Emily said, her voice trembling with emotion. You sold our house without my consent. You forged my signature on the withdrawal slips. You've lied to everyone, including Sophie. James's face paled, and Emily could see the panic in his eyes. I didn't mean to what? Destroy our family, Emily interrupted. You think this is just going to go away? I'm not going to let you get away with this. Sophie crossed her arms, her expression shifting from smugness to concern. What are you going to do, Emily? You can't just come in here and make threats. Emily took a deep breath, steadying herself. I'm not making threats. I'm taking action. I've already contacted my lawyer, and we're challenging the sale of the house. You both need to understand that this isn't over." James's expression hardened. "You think you can just waltz back in and take everything from me? You're the one who left." "I left to provide for our family, James. I trusted you to hold down the fort, and you betrayed that trust," Emily replied, her voice steady. "You've made your choices, and now you'll face the consequences." As Emily turned to leave, she felt a surge of empowerment. She had stood up for herself, and she wouldn't let James or Sophie intimidate her any longer. "Emily, wait!" James called after her, but she didn't look back. She had made her point, and now it was time to take the next step. After the confrontation, Emily felt a mix of relief and determination. She returned to Maya's apartment, where they immediately began strategizing their next steps. The weight of the situation still hung heavy in the air, but Emily was resolute. "Okay, what's our game plan?" Maya asked, spreading out the documents they had gathered on the table. "We need to hit him where it hurts." Emily took a deep breath, her mind racing. "First, we need to gather all the evidence of his financial misconduct. The forged signatures, the unauthorized sale of the house, and the withdrawal from our joint account. I want everything documented." Maya nodded, her fingers flying over her laptop as she began compiling the information. "I can help you draft a letter to your lawyer. We need to make sure they understand the urgency of this situation." As they worked, Emily's phone buzzed with a message from James. "Emily, we need to talk. This is getting out of hand." She felt a surge of anger, but also a flicker of curiosity. "He wants to talk," she said, showing the message to Maya. "Don't respond yet," Maya advised. "Let's see what he has to say. You're in control now." Emily agreed, focusing on the task at hand. They spent the next few hours organizing their evidence, preparing for the legal battle ahead. Emily felt empowered, knowing she was taking charge of her life again. Later that evening, as they wrapped up their work, Emily received another message from James. "I'm sorry for everything. I didn't mean for it to go this far. Can we meet?" Emily hesitated, her heart torn. Part of her wanted to confront him again, to demand answers and hold him accountable. But another part of her knew that meeting him could be a trap. "I think we should meet," Maya suggested, sensing Emily's internal struggle. "But on your terms. You need to set the boundaries." Emily nodded, her resolve strengthening. "Okay, I'll agree to meet, but only in a public place. I want witnesses." They decided on a cafe in the city, a neutral ground where Emily could feel safe. The next day, she arrived early, her heart racing as she waited for James. She had rehearsed what she wanted to say, but the reality of facing him again was daunting. When James arrived, he looked different, more disheveled and anxious than she had ever seen him. He approached her table, his expression a mix of regret and defiance. "Thanks for meeting me," he said, his voice low. "Let's get straight to the point, James," Emily replied, her tone firm. "You've made a lot of mistakes, and I need to know why." James sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I was overwhelmed, Emily. I thought I was doing what was best for our family. I didn't think you'd be gone for so long." "Best for our family?" Emily echoed, incredulous. "You sold our house without my consent. You put our children at risk. How is that best for anyone?" "I know I messed up," he admitted, his voice cracking. "But I didn't think you'd come back. I thought I was moving on." Emily felt a mix of anger and pity. "You didn't just move on, James. You destroyed everything we built together. You betrayed my trust." "I'm sorry," he said, his eyes pleading. "I never wanted it to come to this. I thought I could fix things before you found out." "Fix things?" Emily shook her head in disbelief. "You can't fix betrayal? You can't fix lying and stealing from me?" James looked down, shame washing over his face. "I know, I just I didn't know how to handle everything. I thought I could manage it all. Emily took a deep breath, trying to keep her emotions in check. You need to understand that I'm not going to let this go. I'm pursuing legal action and I will fight for what's rightfully mine. James's expression shifted from regret to anger. You're going to ruin me, Emily. You're going to take everything away from me. No, James, she replied, her voice steady. You did that to yourself. I'm just taking back what's mine. As they sat in silence, Emily felt a sense of closure beginning to wash over her. She had confronted him, and she was ready to move forward. Goodbye, James, she said, standing up to leave. I hope you find a way to make things right, but I won't be part of it anymore. As she walked away, Emily felt lighter. She was reclaiming her life, one step at a time. In the weeks that followed, Emily focused on gathering her strength and preparing for the legal battle ahead. With Maya's help, she compiled all the evidence against James, meticulously organizing documents that detailed his financial misconduct and the unauthorized sale of their home. Emily felt empowered as she took control of her narrative, determined to reclaim her life. One afternoon, Emily met with her lawyer, Sarah, in a small office filled with books and legal paraphernalia. Sarah was sharp and confident, and Emily felt a sense of relief as she explained her situation. From what you've told me, we have a strong case, Sarah said, reviewing the documents Emily had provided. The forged signatures and the lack of proper consent for the sale of the house are serious issues. We can challenge the sale and seek damages for the money he withdrew from your account. Emily nodded, her heart racing. I just want to make sure he understands the consequences of his actions. I can't let him get away with this. Sarah smiled reassuringly. We'll make sure he knows. I'll file the necessary paperwork and we'll prepare for a potential court date. It's going to be a process, but you're not alone in this. As they discussed the next steps, Emily felt a sense of hope. She was finally taking action, and for the first time in months, she felt like she was on the path to reclaiming her life. Meanwhile, James was not taking the news well. He reached out to Emily multiple times, trying to persuade her to drop the case. Emily, we can work this out. Let's just talk, he pleaded in one message. But Emily was resolute. She had made her decision, and there was no turning back. She focused on her children, ensuring they felt loved and supported during this tumultuous time. Maya was a constant source of strength, helping Emily navigate the emotional roller coaster of the legal proceedings. As the court date approached, Emily felt a mix of anxiety and determination. She spent hours preparing with Sarah, going over every detail of her case. On the day of the hearing, she arrived at the courthouse, her heart pounding in her chest. The courtroom was intimidating, with its high ceilings and rows of wooden benches. Emily took a deep breath as she entered, her eyes scanning the room until they landed on James, who sat at the plaintiff's table with a look of defiance. Remember, you're here to tell your truth, Sarah whispered, giving Emily a reassuring nod. When it was time for Emily to take the stand, she felt a surge of adrenaline. She recounted her story, detailing the betrayal and the impact it had on her life and her children. Her voice was steady, and she could see the judge listening intently. James's lawyer attempted to discredit her, but Emily stood firm. I trusted him with everything, she said, her voice unwavering. He took advantage of that trust and made decisions that affected our entire family without my knowledge or consent. As the hearing progressed, Emily felt a sense of empowerment wash over her. She was no longer the victim, she was a fighter, standing up for herself and her children. After several hours of testimony and cross-examination, the judge called for a recess. Emily stepped outside the courtroom, her heart racing. Maya was waiting for her, a proud smile on her face. You did amazing, Emily. You were so strong up there, Maya said, wrapping her arms around her friend. I just hope it's enough, Emily replied, her voice trembling slightly. I want to make sure he understands the consequences of his actions." As they waited for the judge to return, Emily felt a sense of camaraderie with the other women in the courthouse. She realized she wasn't alone in her fight. There were many others who had faced similar struggles. Finally, the judge returned and everyone took their seats. The atmosphere in the courtroom was tense as the judge delivered the verdict. "After reviewing the evidence presented, I find that the sale of the property was conducted without proper consent from both parties. The signatures on the documents in question are indeed forged. Therefore, the sale is deemed invalid." A wave of relief washed over Emily, and she felt tears prick at her eyes. The judge continued, "Furthermore, I will order the defendant to return the funds withdrawn from the joint account and to pay damages for the emotional distress caused." Emily's heart soared. She had won. As she left the courthouse, she felt a weight lift off her shoulders. She had fought for her rights and her children, and she had emerged victorious. "Let's celebrate," Maya exclaimed, pulling Emily into a hug. "You did it." Emily smiled through her tears, feeling a sense of closure. She was ready to move forward, to rebuild her life and to create a future filled with love and happiness for herself and her children. In the weeks following the court ruling, Emily felt a renewed sense of purpose. The victory in court had not only validated her feelings, but also reignited her determination to rebuild her life. With a financial settlement from James, she could finally start fresh. Emily focused on creating a stable environment for her children. She spent time with them, engaging in activities that brought joy and laughter back into their lives. They visited parks, went on weekend trips, and even started a small garden in their backyard. Emily wanted to show them that despite the turmoil, they could still find happiness together. One evening, as they sat around the dinner table, Emily looked at her children, their faces lit with joy. "I want to make a toast," she said, raising her glass of lemonade. "To new beginnings and to our family. We've been through a lot, but we're stronger together." Her children clinked their glasses together, their smiles brightening the room. "To family," they cheered in unison. As the days turned into weeks, Emily also began to explore new opportunities for herself. She had always dreamed of starting her own business, and now felt empowered to pursue that dream. With Maya's encouragement, she began researching potential ventures and brainstorming ideas. Bill in advance? "Or not start a blog or a YouTube channel," Maya suggested one afternoon. "You have such a powerful story to share. You could inspire others who are going through similar situations." Emily considered the idea. "That could be a great way to connect with others and share my journey. I want to help people who feel lost or betrayed, just like I did." With Maya's help, Emily set up a blog and a YouTube channel. She began documenting her experiences, sharing her story of resilience and empowerment. She talked about the challenges she faced, the lessons she learned, and the importance of self-love and healing. As her online presence grew, Emily received messages from women all over the world who resonated with her story. They shared their own experiences of betrayal and recovery, and Emily felt a sense of community forming around her. One day, as she was filming a video about self-care and healing, Emily received a message from a viewer named Sarah. "Your story has inspired me to take control of my life after a difficult breakup. Thank you for sharing your journey. You're making a difference." Reading messages like Sarah's filled Emily with a sense of purpose. She realized that her experiences could help others navigate their own struggles. As the months passed, Emily's blog and YouTube channel flourished. She began to receive invitations to speak at local events and workshops, where she shared her story and offered advice on overcoming adversity. Emily felt a sense of fulfillment she had never experienced before. One evening, after a successful speaking engagement, Emily returned home, her heart full. She sat down with her children, who were excited to hear about her day. "I met so many amazing people today," she said, her eyes sparkling. "I shared our story, and it felt incredible to connect with others." Her youngest child, Lily, looked up at her with wide eyes. "Mom, you're like a superhero." Emily laughed, pulling her children close. "I'm just a mom trying to make a difference, and you all are my biggest motivation." As Emily continued to build her platform, she also focused on her personal growth. She started attending therapy sessions, where she learned to process her emotions and heal from the pain of her past. It was a journey of self-discovery, and she embraced every moment of it. One day, during a therapy session, Emily reflected on her progress. "I feel like I'm finally becoming the person I was meant to be," she said, her voice filled with emotion. "I'm learning to love myself again." Her therapist smiled warmly. "That's a significant step, Emily. Remember, healing is a journey, not a destination. Celebrate your progress, no matter how small." With each passing day, Emily felt stronger and more confident. She was no longer defined by her past. She was a survivor, a warrior, and a role model for her children. As the seasons changed, Emily looked forward to the future with hope and excitement. She had rebuilt her life, and she was ready to embrace whatever came next. As the year drew to a close, Emily reflected on her journey. The challenges she had faced seemed like a distant memory, overshadowed by the strength and resilience she had discovered within herself. Her blog and YouTube channel had become a source of inspiration for many, and she felt a deep sense of fulfillment in sharing her story. One crisp winter morning, Emily decided to host a small gathering at her home to celebrate her progress and the community she had built. She invited friends, family, and some of her online followers who had become close friends through their shared experiences. The atmosphere was warm and inviting, filled with laughter and the aroma of homemade treats. As her guests arrived, Emily felt a wave of gratitude wash over her. She had created a space where people could come together, share their stories, and support one another. It was a testament to her journey of healing and empowerment. During the gathering, Emily took a moment to address her guests. "I want to thank each of you for being here today. This past year has been one of the most challenging of my life, but it has also been the most transformative. I've learned that we are stronger together, and I'm grateful for the support and love I've received from all of you." Her friends cheered, raising their glasses in a toast. "To Emily, to new beginnings and the strength to overcome." As the evening progressed, Emily felt a sense of belonging that she had longed for. She shared stories of her journey, the ups and downs, and the lessons she had learned along the way. Her guests listened intently, some sharing their own experiences of resilience and hope. Later in the evening, Maya pulled Emily aside. "I'm so proud of you, Em. You've come so far, and you're making a real difference in people's lives." Emily smiled, her heart swelling with appreciation. "I couldn't have done it without you, Maya. You've been my rock through all of this." As the night came to a close, Emily felt a sense of peace. She had created a new life for herself and her children, one filled with love, support, and purpose. She was no longer defined by her past. She was a woman who had fought for her happiness and had emerged victorious. In the following months, Emily continued to grow her platform, expanding her reach and connecting with even more people. She began writing a book about her experiences, hoping to inspire others who were facing similar challenges. The process was cathartic, allowing her to delve deeper into her emotions and share her story in a more profound way. One day, as she sat at her desk, typing away, Emily received a message from a publisher interested in her book. "We believe your story has the potential to inspire many. We'd love to discuss publishing options with you." Overwhelmed with excitement, Emily couldn't believe how far she had come. She had transformed her pain into purpose, and now she had the opportunity to reach an even wider audience. As spring approached, Emily's life felt vibrant and full of possibilities. She had plans to launch a podcast where she could have conversations with other survivors and experts in the field of healing and empowerment. She envisioned creating a community where people could share their stories and support one another. One sunny afternoon, Emily took her children to the park, watching them play and laugh together. She felt a deep sense of gratitude for the life they were building. Look at how happy they are, she thought, her heart swelling with pride. As they sat on a bench, enjoying ice cream, Emily turned to her children. I want you both to know that no matter what happens in life, you have the strength to overcome anything. Always believe in yourselves, and never be afraid to stand up for what's right. Her children nodded, their eyes shining with admiration. We love you, Mom, they exclaimed in unison. Emily smiled, feeling a warmth spread through her. She had created a loving home, a safe haven where her children could thrive. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the park, Emily felt a sense of hope for the future. She was ready to embrace whatever came next, knowing that she had the strength to face it head-on. With her heart full and her spirit unbreakable, Emily stepped into the next chapter of her life, ready to inspire others and continue her journey of healing and empowerment.